Okay. So in the last few sessions, which we had as introduction classes, we discussed about what does it mean by Fusion Cloud and the different options within the cloud like SaaS, PaaS, or IaaS. Okay, and we discussed about RBAC, role-based access control. It's all about how the security can be managed within the Fusion applications, and we discussed about users and Fusion applications, Fusion users, and we discussed about what are the type of users we have and why we have to create those type of users in terms of application access. What is the difference between those users? And we discussed about the middleware components as a part of Fusion architecture, and we discussed about enterprise structure. Okay, Fusion enterprise structure we discussed, and the last session we discussed it's all about FSM, a functional setup manager. Okay, so primarily these are the areas which we just touch based of theoretically for our understanding. Anyway, once we get into the instance, we'll see the same whatever the points we discussed. Very relevant tasks will be performing within the system, and apart from that, what are the other information we should understand as a part of instance? We'll discuss and we'll be doing the same within the instance. Okay, for today's session, the agenda is say implementation user creation. Okay, we'll create the implementation user and we'll go through the offerings and options. If time permits, we'll see how to create the implementation project also. Okay, this is what we are going to see in the today's session. So before we start with instance, any questions from anyone, please? Okay, no questions. So from today's session, just we'll place that previous and today's session videos in the Google Drive, and we'll be sharing the Google Drive access for the participants. And along with that, we'll provide the instance access also today after today's session. Yeah, please.
Yeah, I have a question before we start the session.
Please.
What is this BR100 document and how it is important as a financial consultant?
See, that's related to project. We'll discuss those points maybe in the end of the session. Since that is not part of
Okay.
this discussion, so we'll see later. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. So we'll see how to create the implementation user. So already we discussed when you create the implementation user, what are the key roles? Okay, we have to assign to implementation user, and what is the purpose also we discussed, right? So as a part of just we'll go and create the implementation user. From where we can create the implementation user? The implementation user we can create from security console, right? So these points we discussed. The same we are going to do. We are going to create the implementation user from security console. When you create the implementation user from security console, to give required privileges, we have to assign three roles. Those are application implementation consultant, the IT security manager, and employee, right? So the purposes also already we discussed. Very high level, the application implementation consultant role will give the access to user to have access to FSM. IT security manager role will, through this role, user can have access to security console. Okay, here some self-service and other report related access can be granted to any user through this role. These are the three roles which we have to provision to implementation user, so that any that user can work on the instance as a consultant with all the privileges. Okay, we'll see the same how to create our own user. Now I'm going to use one user. Okay, just give me a second. I'll just take one user which we can use for our class. Fine.
Um, Lakshman, I have one request or a reminder.
Please.
Yesterday you mentioned you will be sharing the videos for beginners, 15 videos for R12
Yeah,
beginners.
I'll do that. I'm sorry. I thought yesterday to share along with the today meeting link. I totally forgot that. I'll be sharing after today's session. Sorry for that.
Okay.
I'll do it first.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Fine. So now I'm going to use this user. Okay. With this user, I'm going to log into the instance, and we'll see how to create the implementation user, how to assign these roles. Then with that user, we'll log into the instance and we'll continue from there. So for our practice also, I'll be sharing the same user. So this user you can use to create your own user. Okay, so just you don't try to do any other activities with this user. So this user you can just use to connect to the instance, and what are the process we are going to follow now to create our own user definition. You can just follow the same and you can get ready with your user. Try to do everything from your user only. It could be project creation or any other setups or any process. Try to do from that user only. Use this user only to create your own user. Okay, so that's all. Just this is the point. Okay, I'm going to use this user to connect to the instance. Fine. So here is the instance. This is a cloud instance. Okay, you can just connect from any device. Okay, so no additional plugins are required when you work on EBS, since there is a forms, Java plugins, and other depending on certain accesses, we require additional plugins also. But here, just it's a completely the user interface is a web-based ADF pages. So to connect to this instance to work, so you can connect from any device and you can work. No additional plugins are required. Okay, so this is a username. Just provide password. Just log in. Fine. This is our home page, landing page. Now we'll focus on all these what we are finding here and what is the purpose of these and all. We'll go through later. Now it's not at all required for us. Now our target is implementation user creation. Our target is implementation user creation. We'll focus on that process. Going forward, we'll come to know. So the each and every option which you see here and the relevant. Okay. To create the implementation user, we have to go to security console. From security console, we can create the implementation user. To navigate to security console, here we have a navigator icon. Okay, this is a navigator icon. You can see in the left side. In the very older versions, you can see right side here as a navigation icon. Okay, this is our latest version. Even from 10 also you could see from here only. Okay, 10.9 also. Fine. So on the left side you can see that navigator icon. Just click on the navigator icon. Okay, so this user has privileges to those three roles only. We discussed three roles. These three roles already assigned to this user. Okay, just for information. Otherwise, anyway, you are going to get access to this user. From that user, we have to understand how to create our own user. So once you log into the instance, you'll be landing in this home page. Go to navigator. Okay, just click on that. So within the navigator, you can see tools section. Okay, under tools, you can find one task here. Everything we call as a task, whatever we do we call as a task. So under tools we have a task called as security console. Just click on security console task. Click on security console task. So here we have the second tab. The first tab talks about roles. Now we are not going to work on the roles, we'll see later. So we are going to create the implementation user. To create the implementation user, just click on this users tab. Here we can create our own user. To create the new user, click on add user account tab. Just click on add user account tab. Here you can provide the user information, last name, first name, email, etc. you can provide. But now we'll go and create the implementation user by providing basic information, which is a mandatory. Okay, so we'll go with the username called, say, ERP last name. The same name we want to use as a user login name also, and set password. Okay, and confirm the same. Done. Now for this user we have to give the provision to these roles. Provisioning is nothing but giving access, right? So just we have to provision these three roles to this user. Okay, how to? Now we have to assign those roles to this user. We created a user, we given the name, login name, and password, and we just confirm the password. To assign those three roles to this user, click on add roles tab. Just click on add role and just assign one by one. The first role is application implementation consultant. So just type here the same name, application implementation consultant. Just type that name. You could see the same name. The other role also we have, which is ending with the suffix as a copy. That means the same application implementation consultant role is seeded role, which is delivered by Oracle, but someone copied it. Okay, someone copied it. So we'll see that process also, how to copy, how to create the new roles. Well, anyway, those all we are going to discuss just for our understanding. So you could see here application implementation consultant with the suffix called as copy. Okay, don't select the copied roles. There could be some changes when someone copy the role, they can do some changes also, right? So that is the reason, don't select, always select seeded roles. So the seeded role is application implementation consultant. So along with the application implementation consultant, you will find other roles also. Application implementation administrator, application implementation manager. Okay, we have a different roles. Like we have application implementation and administrator, manager, but don't go with those roles. So very high privileges you can find from the application implementation consultant only. If you select application implementation manager, you will be limited to certain setups. Okay, but if you select application implementation consultant, you'll have a full privileges. That is the reason, select application implementation consultant role. Select it. Once you select, system is displaying the same here, the application implementation consultant, and again application implementation consultant. You could see role name is same, but the role codes are different. Okay, ASM application implementation consultant job, and ORA ASM application implementation consultant job. So what are the seeded roles Oracle is providing? For few roles, okay, the few roles they are giving with a duplication of different codes, means role name is getting duplicated, but that is differentiated with the role code. But reality, these two roles will have same privileges. You can select any one of the role. So the role name should be application implementation consultant. Okay, so since these are provided by Oracle, you could see two definitions, okay, with the different codes. But when we create custom role, you can give only one code. Okay, that's how the definition is possible. So here no difference you see between these two in terms of the privileges what user will get. So that is the reason you can select, you can assign any one of the role to our user. Okay, the first point is you have to find the role, then select the role. Just click on that, the role will get selected. Now to assign this role to our user, click on add role membership. Nothing but assign role to user. Just click on add role membership. The role application implementation consultant was added to the user. Say okay. Done. So 3 roles total. 1 role we assigned. Now we'll go and assign IT security manager role. Okay. Just here remove that name and search for IT security manager. See here also you can notice someone copied this role and just they mention the tag as do not use. That means there are some changes happened within that role. They did some changes maybe for testing or just for understanding how the role can be copied and modified. So that is the reason even who just did some copied, they are just suggesting not to use. Anyway, we know we should not go with the custom roles. When we start with the system, we have to select always seeded role. The seeded role is IT security manager. Just select it. So the same name IT security manager, we you could see 2 roles here. Okay, the codes are different. One is starting with FND, the other one is the prefix, it is starting with ORA FND. Okay, any one of the role you can select. So I'm selecting the first one, IT security manager. Then we have to assign this role to our user. Click on add role membership. Sorry,
Lakshan, I have one quick question.
please.
Why do we see 2 roles like IT at the? Why do we see two roles for the same role here?
See the code, like when they just generated these roles as a standard seeded roles definition, that's how they got generated. That could be some bug or that could be some other reason. So, but by default, they are providing two. Two will have same privileges. But when we create custom role, our own roles, system won't give you the option of creating two. See here, if you notice, code also same. ORA FND IT. Here also ORA IT security manager. Both are same here. So this is actually original role. In the process of definitions, this might be system added. Okay, here ORA, it is prefix, it is starting with the ORA. You've seen that environment as a two definitions, but both will have same privileges. You can select any one of them. That's how they are giving in the first instances. Okay.
Okay. It's the same for other releases also, like release 12, 11.
Yes, yes,
Another.
for any.
Okay.
Yeah, from 12 you could see in this way. So prior to that, only one role we used to find, but no difference. That's what we have to understand. Okay, both will have same privileges.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
fine. Thanks. So just we assigned IT security manager role also to our user. You could see in the background, IT security manager. Done. Now we have one more role to assign to our users. The role is employee role. So same process. Just search for employee role. If you think the filtration system is taking more time, then you can click on search. Then immediately it will fetch the results. So here you can select employee role. Here also you could see the role name same but codes are different. You can assign any one of the role. So add role membership, nothing but assign role to user. Say okay, now you can click on done. So we assigned 3 roles to our user. Okay, we'll understand what is the assignable auto provisioning and all going forward. I'll take you through the process also if you want to assign the roles, how to implement through auto provision. Okay, for now let's try to just understand how to create the implementation user, how to assign the roles. Yes, we created implementation user. We assigned 3 basic roles. Now you can click on save and close. Okay, so anytime if you want to reset the password for this user, what you can do is you can find the user from here. We given the name as ERP3, find user, and here we have action. Just click on this action drop down and say reset password. So here you can change the password. Okay, you can provide the new password and you can confirm the new password. That's how you can reset the password for this user. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll sign out from the current user and we'll log into the instance with our own user. Let us sign out and confirm the sign off. Okay, the username is ERP3, provide password. And done. So this is how we can create user and we can assign the roles. So any questions on this user definition in the system, please? So we have other user type called as employee user that we'll see later. Now we cannot create. To create employee user, we require legal entity and business unit. That's what we discussed. So in the fresh instance, only the possibilities. First, you can create implementation user. With the implementation user, you can complete the required setups. Then you can create the employee user. So any questions here, please?
This that username and password you initially used to log in, is that given by Oracle initially during installation, after installation?
No. We received from our vendor from whom we are getting this instance. They provided. Okay, that is not given by Oracle. Okay, just it's a, since these are cloud and all, you don't see any some default stuff. They'll create for every vendor and they'll be sharing. So that is the one which you can use for instance access. So whatever I used also that is not given by Oracle. Okay, just this we got this user from the specific source of this instances, and that I am going to share with you as the initial login credentials. With that you can log into the instance and you can set up your own user. From there you can continue with the implementation project and rest of setups. That's how you can create multiple users. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, how it works in the real time?
Sorry.
How it works in real time? The vendor will provide the same,
Yeah,
or
Oracle will provide. Oracle will provide. There'll be just once your client for whom will be working. Once they subscribe the instance, they'll be sending the email. They'll send the email with pre-pod and pod instances. Okay, pre-production and production instance. Two separate URLs they'll be sharing with respect to user credentials. They'll create the user and they'll be sharing the credentials to us along with the instance URLs. That's all. Okay, going forward, any further communication with Oracle you can do through Rising SR to Oracle Cloud Team. Okay,
So Lakshman, I have a question.
please.
So, how does it happens in Fusion? Like in R12, right? We have one production, one development. In another instance, the DBA can copy and they can refresh it from production. So, does the same happen in Fusion as well?
See, here basically we get pre-prod and prod means production. Pre-production and production. So, so when these two, this production anyway, as a final release will be using it. Once solution is ready, we'll be configuring and we'll be using pre-pod. We'll be using for the purpose of test instance. So when you talk about any cloning or any activities, this all should be done by Oracle Cloud team, DBA team. Okay, Oracle DBA team will do it. So when we talk about on-premise instance EBS, so we definitely we should have a DBA. So whatever our DBA will do to support that the project or implementation or kind of support whatever, so all will be done by Oracle DBA team in case of cloud. Okay, we don't require any DBA when you do any implementations or when you deal with the support projects or rollouts or anything in case of cloud. So all the DBA activities will be managed by Oracle DBA team, Oracle Cloud DBA team. Say Cloud DBA team. Okay, so this is the point we have.
I have a question. Is there any IT governance embedded in this fusion, like automatically transferred any changes that we do, or else like whatever testing we have done? Is there like a Kitana governance embedded in the system, or is like we have to manually do everything in the file?
No, between what you are talking about? What
Between
are,
pre-production and
no, no.
if you want to move it, you're saying you have to extract a file and then reload it.
Yeah, that is only one option. The other option is always we do in EBS also cloning. You can clone the pre-production to production, but there is no such kind of synchronization where you do something in the pre-production or say test environment that will sync with the production automatically. No, such kind of automation is not available. So you can do the setups one time, like you can extract and you can import into targeted instance, or else if you want to move the complete environment configuration and data to production environment targeted instance, you can ask your Oracle DBA to clone it. Sorry, there was some network issue. Fine, hope you can hear me now. Okay, I was just trying to say, like, so we don't have such kind of automation is available between the test environment and production. Only the option is you can export the data and you can import the same data into target instance for your setups. The other option is you can ask the Oracle Cloud DBA team to clone your test environment to production environment, or else if you are going to have it one more instance on request, so by default Oracle provides only these two environments. Okay, test and production, or call it as pre-production and production. And if you are going to have a third environment also, you may just ask Oracle Cloud DBA team to clone your production to other environment. Okay, that's how it works. By default we get two, and if you need additional you will be charged extra.
So the user it's based upon the user license, right?
Exactly.
You just showed the security console. So I think I'm assuming that Oracle will give a single user wherein you can set up other users, right?
Correct.
So let's say we have 10 user licenses. So is there any restriction automatically applies once the 10 users are reached,
No,
or else
no.
keep a count of
No.
user?
See, normally in case of EBS also, just you take the license and you will go and create the users. And we know very well Oracle will conduct audit sometimes, right?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. That is becoming serious issue right
Here
now.
the point is, so Oracle, see, they no need to visit your, they no need to get access from you with your permission and all. In case of cloud, you are just accessing this cloud instance from their server. Then easily they can do all these validations and audit.
Right,
So that's
right. But if you want to keep a limit, actually, I don't want users to create one more user, and that will be costing my company, right? I don't want to do that. I want to restrict the users from creating. I mean,
See,
users.
I got your question. By default, no restriction, such kind of provision, such kind of function we don't have as a part of system. We may speak to Oracle, and if they can help us on setting up control of number of users creation the system, that's how it may be possible. But by default, as a standard product, how they provision, how we use, we don't have that kind of number specification for number of users creation.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, fine, thanks. So any other questions here, please?
Yeah, Lakhan, just to confirm, if we want Oracle to refresh the instance, the test instance from production instance, so you mentioned we need to create a SR with Oracle, and usually they take about 1 week. I just need a confirmation on the
No.
approximate time frame.
They don't take 1 week also. Even if you want to upgrade from current version to latest version, for that activity also they don't take 1 day time also. They'll take just couple of hours. So just you imagine, if you are going to ask for
Okay.
test environment refresh, how much time they'll take. Just maybe few hours, that's all, not more than that.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So any other questions here, please? If no questions, we'll just go through FSM and we'll try to understand few points. Any questions from anyone, please? Fine, no questions. Okay. So this is what we have to understand: how to create the implementation user and what roles we have to assign. Okay, these 3 roles. Now we are connected with this instance. 1 second.
I think while you are assigning the employee role, you chose a wrong code, I guess.
Sorry?
When I saw when you created this user, you assigned a wrong employee role, I guess, because it was a copy. I see at the end it was a copy of the code. I'm probably might need to check on that, but I'm not
No. I selected just employee only, not employee copy.
okay. The code was having copy at the end.
The core one, just we have it 2 roles. One is employee, other one is employee copy. I selected employee role only. Yeah, fine. That's what we have to understand and do. Okay, fine. So now just yeah, please.
Is there a way to assign the end date to the user? Just like Oracle EBS, we assign the end date. Same thing here?
Yes, we can do that. We can inactivate, or else altogether we can delete the user also.
Okay.
Yep. Fine, we can do that. From security console, from that manage users only you can do it. Okay. Now we'll talk about these 3 role related privileges. Okay. So first, application implementation consultant. Because of this role, this user will have access to FSM, function setup manager. Just if you want to see that the privileges, you can click on username. Next to username we have a drop down. So basically that function will get connected when you click on the username. Just click on the username, and here you could see setup and maintenance task. So you can find this setup and maintenance task if you assign the role called as application implementation consultant role to the user. For the user called as ERP tree, we assign the role called as application implementation consultant role. That role is adding the setup and maintenance task under this user actions. Okay, just click on setup and maintenance task. Okay, so here this is one of the offering which we have in this instance. Its system is defaulting. If you want to see all, you can just click on task list. This icon you call as tasks, or say task list, or task panel, or task pan. Just click on this task panel or task list, and here you could see all the configuration packages. Okay, so here manage configuration packages. So manage configuration packages. So this user has access to application implementation consultant. That is the reason the first point is this user has access to setup and maintenance. Once you land in this page within this task list, these are all privileges this user has. Okay, now just click on manage configuration packages task. This also we call as a task. Okay, and just it's defaulting as created by ERP tree. No, just click on done. So what you could do is, sorry, configuration package in that. So that's it's all about copying just its environment. Now it's not required. What we'll do is we can go with manage implementation projects. Okay, we'll go just all the points one by one, so which are just listed in this. Or else what we'll do is just we discuss. Okay, just let me take through these three roles related privileges. The first point here is, so this area, okay, so this FSM, this is all related to FSM, just getting access to setup and maintenance. Okay, so landing in this page, and within this task list you could see different privileges. From this task you can create the implementation projects, and you can copy the configuration, and manage configuration packages means you can export the setups from this instance which can be imported into other instance, and manage exports and import process where you can export and import the data, and custom setup content definitions, and search means where you can perform different tasks, different setups. So just notice these are the privileges this user got because of application implementation consultant role. And another role is IT security manager. Because of this role, the current ERP tree user has access to the security console. If you go to navigator under tools, we are able to see the task called as security console. If we click on security console, it will take us to security console. From this security console, this user can create other users, and the user can work on the roles and other administrator privileges, etc. This user can have. Okay, so these all privileges this user has because of IT security manager role. If you don't assign IT security manager role, this user cannot have access to this security console. Here you can expand this, you could see. Okay, so now we just connected with the security console. So the other role is employee. So because of this employee role, this user got access to many of these navigator. Within the navigator there are many items, nothing but tasks, just very primarily for our understanding. So this reports and analytics, and schedule process, we'll see how, I mean, we'll be running those at the time. You can understand more detail level just for information. Okay, so this reports and analytics and the schedule process, these tasks we are able to see in this navigator from this user because of employee role. So along with that, okay, this user will have access to some other information which is related to this about me. Here you could see, so about me, the personal information, career development goals. Okay, and some other just privileges. Let me just minimize this, you could see that. Okay, so performance, skills and qualifications. So these all tasks will be provisioned to any user with the help of role called as employee only. Okay, so we assign three roles, and what is the purpose of those three roles we are trying to understand. With this, user can have access to FSM, the IT security manager user will get access to security console. With employee, some self-service related functions or task related privileges, the user can get it. Okay, done. Now what we'll do is we will see what are the different offerings we have in this instance. Okay, so by using those offerings, and we'll, within that offering, what are the options we have, we'll just go through that information. Fine. So what we can do is to see all the offerings. First we have to go to FSM, functional setup manager homepage. Okay, to navigate to FSM, click on the username, click on setup and maintenance task. Now we'll be landing in FSM page, this FSM page. And here by default system is selecting compensation management, which is HCM related one of the module, okay, or say option. So now if you want to see what are the different offerings and options we have within this instance, here we have a drop down option, just click on that. So these are the different offerings and offerings available within this instance. Okay, now you can select our financials, just select financials. Okay, this is a financial offering. Fine, just click on this description. You could see the financial offering consists of what. So this financial offering consists of the financial flows like including assets. Okay, assets, ledger. Assets means fixed assets, ledger means general ledger, cash cycles, which represents cash management, invoices and payments, and accounts receivable, collections, nothing but advanced collections, and subledger accounting and tax configuration, fusion tax. Okay, fusion tax. So this is how just you could see like this financial offering consists of what, which areas of application you can find here. And here this is one of the offering. You can just click on, just I selected from here, you can select different offerings. This is financials. In the same way you may select other offering called as some marketing, and you can select procurement. Okay, this is how you can select that brief description. You can see what specific offering consists of. When you talk about procurement offering.
Lakshman, I have a question here.
Yeah.
See, you said when we get a user, usually we need to start with creating an implementation project or something, and then
Not implementation project.
give us
First
a
we'll
setup
create the
function.
implementation user, then we have to enable the offerings and options, then we'll create implementation project.
Okay.
First we have to enable
So how?
offerings and options. The same we are going to see.
Okay.
We are just working on the right sequence only. So first we have to understand.
No. My question is, so before even we create the implementation project, we'll have all these roles and setups assigned, or?
Yes. These are the product functionality, the product how that is available. So before you go and
Okay.
create your implementation project, these all offerings and options will be available.
Okay.
Yep. Okay, we are not doing any setups, right? We are not doing any setups to facilitate that configuration in the system. First we have to enable that offering, then we'll create project, then we can start with the system configuration. All you can see
Right.
in the fresh instance. So if something makes some difference between the fresh instance and the instance which you are using, definitely I'll be addressing that. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is how from here, see just how we are navigating here, just from the user, just click on setup and maintenance. We'll be landing in this page. From this page itself, you'll be able to find the different offerings which are available within this. And you can select specific offering, and the relevant description if you want to get, you can get from here. From this page also you can do the setups, but normally we do the setups after creating the project only, because all setups we cannot perform from here. Okay, done. Anyway, we'll see all the points. Okay, so this is the one point you have to understand. The other point is here you could see actions. The same page you can see actions. Here if you want to go to offerings, so what are the offerings we have in this instance, just select this, go to offerings, click on go to offerings. So these are the different offerings available within this instance. Okay, there are the different offerings available within this instance. You see this list of offerings. There are the different offerings available within this instance. Okay, so just select financials. So you could see the what are the different process finance flows are available within that, which are connected with the respective applications. The same already we have seen. The same you can find from here: assets, ledger, cash cycle, invoice, payments, receivables, collections, etc. Okay, so relevant documents, you can just click on this expand. And to know more about this financial offering, whatever here the description is mentioned, the relevant information if you want to see, so these are the documents available with the different formats: PDF, HTML, Excel. So there is one document on associated features. As a part of financial offering, what are the features we have? Associated features. And as a part, when you talk about financials, what are the different setups we have to perform, including optional and mandatory? All the setups, list of setups they'll provide, and related business objects and enterprise application. Nothing to do with this last two, but primarily you may just go through these associated features and task related documents. Just will go through. So the first document is associated features. You can just choose PDF or Excel format. Just I'm going with a PDF. Just for understanding purpose, nothing else we can do with this. Okay, so these are the different associated features which we have as a part of financials. The offering name is financials. So within that, initially users creation, enterprise profiles, legal structures, financial reporting structure, general ledger functionality, organization structure, resources. Okay, just very high level. So just they are giving suppliers, payables, okay, one-time payments and payments, cash management and banking, transaction tax, expense, corporate cards, okay, travel integration, fixed assets, customer invoice processing, receivable. Just the basic description also they written for each and every feature which is available: customer billing, revenue recognition, customer payments, customers items collections. Okay, just very small documents. So total 7 pages. And to implement all these features, what are the list of setups we have? If you want to know, you can just select the document called as setup task list under tasks. Just click on PDF format or Excel, any one of the format of file you can download. Just say okay. Okay, here you can see the list of setups. A task means specific setup. You could see there are many. It's around 800 plus pages, 838 pages. All finance related configuration, dependency related setups, all you can find. Okay. Okay, you could see here like just supplier numbering. Okay, specify supplier numbering. When you create supplier, you have to specify from which number system has to start the numbering. So the product is supplier model, and product family is procurement. Supplier definition falls under procurement, and it's required. Okay, so it's set to know. Conditional base, yes, it is required. If you are going to implement, so definitely that supplier usage process P2P cycle, definitely it's required. Conditionally, yes. So the module FSCM like enterprise structure. This is ADF task flow and web services related. This is related to some technical information. So this is how you can find out all the setups when you talk about payables, payment terms, distribution sets. Okay, what are the setups we do as a part of payables as a mandatory and optional? All the setup list you can find here. Say manage aging periods. Okay, define time periods used by the invoice aging report. The description also they are providing, that is product is payables, task related to payables, and product families financials. Is it required? No. Conditional required when if you want to run aging report, then the manage aging period task is required. And for that ADF task flow related path within this instance, this is specific to instance. Okay, this will be used by the technical purpose when we do the third party integrations, when we use the web services for data inflows or outflows, means inbound interface or outbound interface. In those scenarios, this information will be useful. Okay, so define.
What is that information?
Sorry,
What is that information?
I didn't get you. Where is that?
Um, you said this information will be used when we are importing the data from third-party system or exporting the data to third-party
So
system.
integration, this ADF task flow and web services. Primarily, I was talking about integration purpose. We use this web services. That's how this is how they'll be mapping. Okay, so manage tax regions. If they want to outbound this information, so with this URL, with this path, they'll be mapping with the SOA middleware. So these details for a technical purpose, technical people will be using this set of this ADF task flow or web services, this information. Okay, so that also they given as a part of this document. So this is how you can see all the list of setups which are related to financials. Fine. So just when you get instance access, you can go through all these points. Okay, and related business objects and related enterprise application, you don't see much useful information here. Just let's go through these documents also. So this is a document which talks about related business objects. So what are the different business object related features we have? 1099 tax, account aliases. That's how they just the classification they did. Accounting events, period types. Okay, this all just falls under the business objects for financials. You can just go through this document just for information. You can just go through all this. And enterprise application related information, if you want to go through it, just open the document. Okay, it's not mandatory we have to go through it, just for information and understanding. You may just hit these links to look into the information. Okay, it's nothing to do with this. Fine. See, normally here they given the information, the related enterprise applications. What is the meaning of that? Here, if you notice, so if you want to connect to, say, so business to business, some specific modules, what is the URL you have to use? That they are just providing, but within the instance that we have a separate tasks which will navigate us to different area. So FA means Fusion Applications, SOA for SOA access. So this is the URL we have to use. Okay, the technical people will be using this information. Okay, within that instance that is available for integrations. Okay, SOA related integrations. This is the URL is available, and that's how just they are providing the relevant URLs information over here. So that all will be used by technical team. So
I have one question here on that. So,
yeah, please just yeah.
okay. So since whatever task that functional person need to do, like mapping and stuff, when to bring the data from the third-party system into Oracle Fusion, or the putting the data out of
Yeah,
exporting
please,
it from
I
Oracle.
got your point. Yeah.
Are we gonna work on those?
We we can. What is that?
Are we going to work on those?
You know,
Like
that is you have to
practice?
do in the project only. Here we cannot do all those stuff. Okay. So you have to study the third party system, which system you have, and you have to understand how the data is managed. And the other side, from Fusion or EBS, you have to understand which data you are going to bring and what are the fields of columns of data you have to bring For that you have to prepare some functional document. Okay, so that you can do as a part of project depending on the requirement and data and specific integrations. Okay, fine. So this is how just you can go through this documentation part and see here we have a opt-in futures. When you talk about the financials, we have a different product families within that, and each application, each offering will have a specific futures also. So those you can see very detailed level. The offering name is financials. Within the offering, these are the options. So supplier invoice processing. Okay, supplier invoice processing within that. So payables. Okay, payables is one of the option, and expense reports, so fusion expense. These are the different options. So because these already enabled, if it is a fresh instance, you see these as disabled mode by default. This is what we discussed as a first point. We have to enable the offerings and options. Okay, as a part of function setup manager, what we discussed first, we have to enable offerings and options. So this is a, it's a vision instance. Since this is a vision instance, already within this environment, the offering called as financials enabled. Within the financial, these all we call as a options. Payables is one option, expense is one option, fixed assets is one option, customer invoice processing is one option, collections, advanced collections, revenue management, this is a separate application we have, the intercompany and all these not very primarily option. These are the, since these are the key features, those also they given as a different options. And the finance related, if you want to do the analysis and or you want to keep the data availability from this project, I mean for this offering, you can enable this business intelligence analytics also, so that the finance related data would be available for OTBI analysis and other areas. So from here just we can go and enable it. We'll go and verify is there any option which is not at enabled in this environment. I'll just, you can select one by one. We can understand here it is showing it's enabled. So select one by one here. Already we done with this. So most of the offerings are enabled. It's also enabled. Enable. You could see the status. It's enabled. It's not enabled. Okay, recruiting and candidate experience. So this one of the offering you could see here not enabled. So in the fresh instance, this is how you will find the status for all the offerings. Say this is the financials. If you treat this is the financials, what we do, we'll select like this, then we can click on opt-in features. Then here system is showing the offering name. So just you have to enable the offering. Within that, what are the options are available, those you have to enable. Okay, here that the payroll is enabled not from this recruitment and candidate expenditure experience. This payroll is enabled from HCM core other modules. That is the reason the same is got defaulted for this recruiting and candidate experience, since this is a common option which is available in HCM as well as this offering. So in the first instance, this is how we have to enable. You have to enable. Once you enable, the what are the options are available under that, all system will list out. Those you can enable one by one. Okay. So again within that, for few options only, futures also enable option will be available. Say payroll, we have within the payroll which features we are going to implement for the client. So you can just for all the options, this option, this won't be available. So see here for the payroll, we are going to do that payroll implementation for which country payroll, US payroll, UK payroll. Just you can enable so that the relevant configuration can be performed within this instance by selecting payroll into your implementation project. So primarily we have to enable offering and options and wherever futures also applicable, we have to select as required. Okay, same I'm selecting financials. So financials already enabled within this instance. Okay, so it's enabled, financials enabled, within that different options also enabled. You could see here futures. So financials, when you just select financial related futures, it's not exactly each and every application related futures, as a part of entire product solution. Okay, which are applicable, which you have to select, you have to do it. Say you are going to do that implementation GRC for your client. In that case, for financials, GRC also you have to enable. Okay, so that's how that relevant, like so this is going to be public sector related implementation. In that case, we have to enable that the budgetary control is required or not for that implementation, and those and all just you can specify, and regional localization depending on which country you are doing that, you have to select here. There are some specifications for China localization or which country localization, those you can select here, purely depending on for which country you are doing implementation. Okay, regional localization for some countries, there will be some points need to be considered when we are using the standard product also. Okay, so in terms of localization point of and other additional business functions or processes which are required, accordingly you can select. For these are the countries where you'll have a regional localization specification. For which country you are going to implement, if there is a falling under this list, you can select it. So that's how the relevant processes will support in the further configuration. Okay, here this is a point you have to enable. You have to understand, we have to enable the offerings and options primarily, and if any features also available applicable for a specific module, you have to do it. So here we have payables. So for payables also they given some future selection. So when you enable payables, the payables complete functionality you will get. So one-time payments, if you are going to implement one-time payments functionality, you can just enable it. The relevant provisions will be available within this environment. So that's how it works for each and everything you can see here. So expenses. Okay, expense nothing but fusion expense. Here we call fusion expense. In EBS the same we call as I expense. So when I talk about expense, so from expense application fusion expense, what are the features we are going to implement? So corporate card expense, corporate card with expenses, expense receipt imaging process, where you can create the receipts based on scanned images of expense reports, expense which employee submits, and travel integrations which you are going to include as a part of this product implementation. All you can select accordingly. The provisioning would be available in the system. So this is how just you can enable any offering and option here. So if you go with this, say procurement. So the procurement offering, within that these are the different options. Purchasing is standard purchasing, and we have other application called as self-service procurement, supplier invoicing process. It's a, since the procurement is integrated with the financials P2P cycle, that option also they given within that. The payables they included as a part of procurement. Okay, and supplier portal, sourcing, which are these are different modules which you call as options within the procurement contracts. These are the different options which you call within the offering called as procurement. Okay, so fine. The workforce deployment development, which comes under HCM, human capital management. So this is how, like, this is a place where we have to go and do enable these offerings or options. Okay, so just for your information, okay, till release 11, just 1 second. So till release 12, this is 13, right? So I'll show you other instance. So this is how you can see, this is how you can navigate, and this is how you can find this of enabling offerings and all in release 13. But when you look at release 12, The same you can see that slightly navigation user interface is slightly different, how we navigate and all. Just I'm going to show you release 12. Okay, in release 12 how you can see that same navigation path and all. There is no much difference. So you are going to work on release 12. So in that case, same process. Click on user, it will open the panel, and click on setup and maintenance. Directly we will be landing on the page where you can see all the offerings. These are the offerings. So financials. Once you select financials, you could see that relevant financial aid process content guides. And if you want to enable any financial offering in the fresh instance, here you have to click on action change configuration. Okay, in the fresh instance, see in this instance financials already provisioned and enabled. It's enabled already. It's not enabled. Here you can find one a tab called as configure. Once you click on configure, it will take us to this page, change configuration. Now we have, since it's enabled, so from here we will enable. This is the navigation difference you have to understand. It is from this is release 13. In case of release 13, what is the process? Click on setup and maintenance. If it is release 12, once you click on setup and maintenance, you'll be landing directly in this page. Directly you can see offering, but in 13 you'll be landing in this page. So in 13, what you have to, if you want to go to offerings, one more step, you have to go to actions, select go offerings, go to offerings, then you will come to this page. The same page in 12 you can see like this. Okay, and you want to enable some offering in release 12. In that case, select offering. Here there will be direct tab called as configure. If it is a fresh instance, since this is a vision instance, already offerings are enabled, you could see these tabs only. Now you have to go to actions and say change configuration. Here you can enable or disable offerings and options. If you want to go to this page in 13, you have to select that offering and you have to click on opt-in features. So now you can find the rest will remain same, just slightly the user the navigation path they changed the simple directions. So that's what we have to understand. Anyway, ignore 12, we are not going to work on it. 13. So this is how you can enable offerings and options. So here you could see all the offerings which are available in this instance, many offerings. Okay, done. Now we'll see how to, yeah, any question? Any question, please?
Yes, I noticed one thing in financial offerings. When we see payable option, payable was not editable, but the others were editable.
Others?
Like the others were enabled, but we had an option to unenable it. But the payables seems to be grayed out, so we could not change it. Like you see payables, like I cannot uncheck it.
No, yeah. If you notice this point, basically till 12, the payables they are not giving for display. This was hidden in the background. Only they are giving supplier invoice processing. Supplier invoice processing means it's a payables. So basically this is a hidden function. If you look at the previous versions, so in this they are just displaying. So there's no point to why that is enabled, because it normally what happens in the background once you enable these features, so those will you can see in the disabled mode. I'll show you here. Just which is the hidden option they are displaying in the 13. That's what you can notice here. If you go to financials, see here the supplier invoice processing, expense and fusion expense. Okay, these three offerings we have. If you see that supplier invoicing processing, expense, fixed assets. Supplier invoicing processing is nothing but payables only. But here the display they are giving it just this can be hidden. Okay, that's how we have in the previous versions. And you see supplier invoice processing, that's nothing but accounts payables. Okay, in 13, under that again the name they given, it's nothing but that means payables only. So when you just enable here these options in the background, that will be just since we selected here in the background that for every application they'll be marking as a selected and freezed, that they are displaying here. Okay, which they had it, which is a hidden value, and which they are displaying front end, that's all. Okay.
Okay. So anything else we can uncheck and we can disable it
Yes,
as long as the
you can
setup is
uncheck.
not.
You can uncheck any point of time. Once you uncheck, those won't be available to create the project. But say, for example, you enable. Say you enable financials. Once you enable, this financial offering would be available to create the project. Say now you enable, and you can go and create the project. Since it's enabled, it will be available to create the project. You created a project. After creating the project, you disabled it, then it won't be available to create new project if you want to create new project by selecting the financials, that's all.
Okay, but if we do create the project, so let's say we enable it, then we create the project, and then we do some setup for that, and then we disable it again. Can we disable it once we do some setup for
No,
that
no, no. Once you create, only this
option?
offering is required to create the project. Why offering is required to create the project? Offering will generate the task list of setups. Once list of setups are generated, even if you go and disable, no issues. After doing setups, you disable also, no issues. So only you cannot create new project if you disable it. For existing projects, there won't be an issue.
Okay, but we can run into that issue if we want to import. We want to
No,
create a
no,
configuration package or
no,
import
no.
the data from one
You
instance
cannot.
to another.
Okay, in which instance you are going to load, you have to make sure that that is enabled. Even if it is not enabled, you can load the data, but you cannot create the project. Whatever the data you are loading, if you want to access, if you want to see that, you can see it through project only. So in that environment, if financial is not enabled, you cannot create the project. So that whatever the finance related data is loaded from a one other instance, if you want to see, since financial offering is not available, you cannot create the project. Since you are not able to create the project, you cannot view the data. Loading is possible, but if you want to see the data, you cannot see. Okay.
Loading is possible, but we cannot see the data. That's I'm not clear on that. I was thinking loading is only possible
No,
if
no,
we have
no, no.
that offering an option as a part of a implementation project.
No, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. So loading, you can do it. See, that's what I said. We can load the data without creating implementation project. I'll extract setups from one instance. I am extracting the data from instance one. I want to load the data into instance two. When I am going to load the data in the instance two, in instance two, project is not mandatory. Okay, directly that will dump into the respective tables. If you want to see the data through relevant task only, you can see the task, you can access from the project only.
Okay,
Okay, you'll
so in both.
understand when you do this wrapped implementation and configuration packages. Okay, fine.
Okay,
At the
yeah.
time,
Just one
queries on this,
last question for.
now this is not a time to talk on that more and more. So you can just, you can wait till we reach those concepts, wrapped implementation and configuration packages.
Okay.
So at that time you'll understand. Still, if you have any questions, we can discuss on that. Fine. For now, just let's try to understand this point. So from where and how to enable the offerings and options. Any questions here, please? Okay, in the fresh instance, you don't see as any offering is enabled. We have to enable. Now you see these all are offering. Most of the offerings are enabled in this environment, since this environment is demo instance. So any questions here, please? Fine. No questions. Once you enable the offerings and options. The next step is we have to create the implementation project. Okay, so how to create the implementation project, we'll see now. To create the implementation project, what you can do is just you can come out from this, and you have to be in this page so that you can see this task list. Or else you want to take the navigation, say you just you log to the instance and go to user and click on setup and maintenance, will be landing on this page only. So this is the direct page where we are landing, and go to create the implementation project. The first step is we have to enable the offerings and options. Already that we have seen the process. Now next step is we have to create the implementation project. So to create the implementation project, what you have to do, click on user, click on setup and maintenance. Now go to this tasks. There is icon called as tasks. This you can call as task list or a task panel or a task pan. Just click on this. So here you can see one task called as manage implementation projects. Okay, manage implementation projects. With this task you can create the project and you can see all existing projects within this instance. Click on manage projects. So here these are the projects which are existed in this environment. There are many projects. Since this is a demo environment, you can see many projects. When you are implementing for one client, okay, you may create one project. For one country you may create, or else for the flexibility of doing the setups, if you are going to do the implementation for 10 country, for each country you may create a separate project. Instance will remain one, but within that, for configuration flexibility convenience, you may create country specific projects so that the respective country team can access to that project to do the relevant configuration for those respective modules. So you could see all these are the existing projects. This list is talks about existing projects which you have in this instance. Okay, this you can call as instance, or normally we use the term called as pod. Okay, pod. So in this pod, these are the projects we have. Now we'll see how to create our own project. The fresh instance, we have to create the project. Even you don't see any sample project or dummy project. When you navigate to this page, here you will see as a blank. Here you could see many projects here, but in the fresh instance, even there won't be any sample project also to see. So it would be blank page. You have to create our own project. So how to create our project, new project? Just click on create. Here we have a plus icon, create icon. Click on it. So by default system is taking the project name, code, description, and automatically system is assigning this project to current user. So ideally we assign project to project manager or somebody who is going to manage the project within the system environment. So to that person we assign the project. So now what we'll do is we'll just go and change the name. So just change the name to say ERP3 implementation project, or if you are going to implement only financials, you may write the name as ERP3 financials implementation project. Just tab out, system will create the code automatically. Okay, here since it's already code is generated, you may add prefix as ERP3, and the description system is creating, and the project status is not started. Yes, just now we are creating. Assign to, by default system is selecting the current user, or else you can change to different user. If you want to assign this project to specific resource in the project, you can click on drop down, click on search. So search for the existing users. Okay, so you can assign to this user. one project you can assign to only one user. Within the project, what are the offerings and options and task list or specific tasks, whatever you find, those can be assigned to multiple. Those you can do multiple assignments, but project can be assigned to only one user. So this is how you can select any user for this project assignment. Anyway, we'll assign to current user only. Select and say okay. Fine. So what is the starting date for this project, and you may provide very tentative finish date. Okay, say I'm just selecting April 30th. So again, remember, just this is for information only. There won't be any control, okay, on this project related activities based on this finish date. We should not think after this April 30th, okay, after this date we cannot perform any activities on this project. No, just that is for information, so that when we track information, whether the task, see, when you are going to do the setups also, you can set the due date for the setup. These setups need to be completed by so and so date and all. And in the same way for project also, you can set that finish date, so that it will be like some information when you go through that project. So for task, whatever the due dates will be setting, if it is going to be delay, system will be showing as a risk. We'll see those points also. But here, just for information, you have to set the finish date. It doesn't have any functionality. Okay, just for information. So now you have to click on next, because we have to add the offerings into this project, offerings and options. If you say
One question.
project, it will be blank project. Yeah, please.
So if I select ERP user 1 instead of ERP tree, whether ERP tree will have the same access, or only ERP user 1 should control the project controls?
So who has access to FSM? Every user can have access to all the projects. Okay.
Okay.
This is just for information. This is just for information. The project is assigned to whom? That's all. Who has access to FSM? They can have access to all the projects. Now see, we are accessing the FSM from ERP tree user. We are able to see all other projects. We can perform any task on those projects also. No restrictions. Only the role will provision, okay, access to FSM. Within the FSM, what are the projects are created, those are assigned to which user. Irrespective of that user, okay, who has access to FSM, they can access. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So that is a point.
But
yeah.
How is security implemented then if everybody can access any
voice
project?
is breaking.
No.
Hello?
No, my system can access all the projects across the instance, right? So how can we control, like, others cannot touch other projects because there is no clearly security there?
See, it's a simple point. One client means normally we go with one project. Take example of EBS instance. Okay. So you are implementing for US for our client. So it will be just you all the consultants will have access to that same instance. So everybody will have access to sysadmin. And you are creating the responsibilities for US, others are creating the responsibilities for India, others are working for UK project. Say for 3 countries you are implementing. So 3 countries implementation you are going to do in the single instance. How you are going to restrict the access for consultants? How you are going to restrict?
We can't. You just said that everybody can access anything.
Same here, because a consultant should have a high level privileges, okay, because they are consultants. But when it comes to user, yes, we should control based on the business process, for which country they are working in, particular country, which department they are working, which privileges they required, and which operating unit or primary ledger access they require in case of EBS, in case of Fusion primary ledger and BU, and inventory organization. Those and all you can set up. Now we are talking about consultant related activities. So no security. in that case. Okay, so everybody knows what is their responsibility for which project they are working. Okay, so that is a point we have to understand.
Okay.
We cannot set restriction for consultants who has access to sysadmin. They can play with anything in EBS. In the same way, who has access to the security, FSM, they can they can just work on any project, any data they can access, which is related to just setup. But who has access to FSM, they cannot create invoice, they cannot process payment, they cannot create journal, they cannot create asset, they cannot create pay receivables, transactional, etc. Only this access will be given to the consultants just to do the setups. That's all. The process related roles are different from configuration related roles. Okay, so these are the points we have to understand. Anyway, going forward, that would be more clear for us since we will see and will be working on the same. Fine, done. Okay, this is how just you have to provide the basic information when you create the project. So just for our identification purpose, like when it started, when it's going to end, and what name you want to provide. If you are going to do implementation for 10 countries, here you may include the name as ERP3, India implementation, US implementation, UK, etc. Okay, fine. Now just click on next. If you click on next, you will be able to select the offerings and options into this project. If you click on save and open project, this will become blank project. Okay, it would be blank without any offerings and options. So even if you, after creating a blank project also, you can add the offerings and options into that. Okay, but here we'll go with a normal standard process. Okay, just after giving this information, click on next. So within this instance, which offerings are enabled? Only those you can see here, only enabled offerings. Say for example, you have 30 offerings within this instance. Say you have a 30 offerings in this instance. Can you see 30 here? No. You can see only which are enabled. We have seen how to enable and from where to enable. Only enabled offerings you can see at the time of implementation project creation. Now we are creating the project. Once you navigate to this page, the list what you are able to see here, these all are enabled. Which are not enabled, you don't find the name here. If you don't enable financials, you don't see financials name in this process now. Okay, so this is what we have to understand. Now we want to include financials into this project. So here we have financials. Okay, and just say include, enable. Okay, we enable the offering. Now we are the same offering we are including into this project. That means we are going to implement financials, enable it to include into this project. System is opening. So for our client, from financials, which options we are going to implement? Say we are going to implement supplier invoice processing. Okay, supplier invoice processing. See here, earlier we were able to see payables in that enabling time, but here we don't have a payables. Supplier invoice processing, nothing but payables only. Say we don't want to implement expense. In that case, you can ignore. And fixed assets, we want to implement customer invoice process, nothing but receivables. Okay, and collections, nothing but advanced collections. Revenue management, separate module. And intercompany budgeting, we want to enable. So which you want to enable, which you want to implement, those you can include into your project. For all these modules, finance related modules, you want to have a OTBI analysis. So in that case, you can enable this all here. And if you want to implement this, okay, expense, nothing but fusion expense. Anyway, we are going to work on it. So which options we are going to implement in this project, based on the scope of the project, you have to select. The same way, if you want to implement procurement also as a part of this, just enable procurement. Here we have a procurement offering. Enable procurement offering. Within the procurement, what are the options we have? Nothing but modules we have. System will list out and you can select from those modules which we are going to implement for client. In procurement, say purchasing we are going to implement, and self-service procurement, separate module. Okay, supplier invoice processing not required, since integration we have, they are giving here, that's all. Some clients, what they do is they go with the P2P. They subscribe only P2P from Oracle. In that case, if primarily they'll be working on procurement, and since procurement P2P cycle, so supplier invoice processing also they can enable here only, instead of going to financials and enabling those financial related offerings and options. So if client is going to subscribe for P2P cycle, they'll get option, they'll provision only procurement for the client. In that case, for fine, since payables is part of financials, they no need to go to financial offering to enable. So within this only they can enable this, if that is the scenario. Okay, and supplier portal separate module, sourcing separate module, supplier qualification separate module, procurement contract separate module, which you are calling as options. So this OTBI analysis, if you want to connect these modules, you can enable it. Yeah, please.
Yeah, this the grouping. If you scroll a little bit to the top, under procurement we have all these. But when you choose procurement, which is the header, so to at least assuming it's a header, all the child options or the expanded items, everything should be automatically selected, right? Why we have to individually select the line items?
My reason is you are going to use, see, when you talk about procurement, it's advanced procurement. Okay, advanced procurement. You take in the license from Oracle only for purchasing application. In that case, you won't get self-service procurement, and you won't get supplier portal, and you won't get sourcing. You take in the complete subscription for procurement. Okay, and out of that, Oracle is providing all these modules, but you are not going to implement, okay, supplier portal. In that case, you can disable rest all you can use, or else you are going to implement supplier portal sourcing, but you are not going to implement self-service procurement. You are not going to use for your company. Disable it. Okay,
well, my question is,
see, that's simple. I got your point. When I enable, yes, they can just write a piece of code saying that all should get defaulted, enabled. They can do that, but just they kept that option the way where you have to enable all, whatever you require.
Okay.
Yeah. So they can write it, right? Simple code they can write. When we include procurement, all options should be enabled automatically. Consultant should be able to disable it. I mean, uncheck. The same way, the same logic they can apply for financials. They didn't build that function. Okay, they didn't build that function, so it's not happening. That's all.
Yeah, because every time you have to go click everything.
No, one second. No, not every time. This is a one-time job for one instance. The fresh instance.
Oh, sorry. Every time in the sense for financials, procurement, those kind of stuff.
No.
Okay,
See, one-time task. You got fresh instance.
Yeah, correct.
You'll do one time for one instance. That is the reason. It's a very routine task. Means yes, definitely they should provide that kind of options.
Okay.
Okay. Only one time we do instance level. That's all. So this is how you can enable the offerings and options based on the scope of the project. Okay, so you are going to implement PPM. So the PPM, they have this two separate offerings. One is project execution management. Second one is project financial management. Within the project financial management, primarily you will have a project accounting solution, which you see in EBS, costing billing. Here we call as contracts. Here project execution management, when you are executing the project, which modules we use: resource management, project management, task configuration. These are the modules will be part of that. Okay, so that's how these are the different offerings and options are available. So which offerings, and within that which options you are going to implement, those you have to select. Say you are going to implement financial for your client but not fixed assets, disable it. Now system, when you create the project, system won't create any setup list to implement fixed asset because you are not selecting here. Okay, later any point of time you can include into the project if you want to implement fixed assets. Yeah, please. Any question?
So if we don't have subscription, we won't be able to enable the offering or the option, correct?
No.
If we don't have a subscription.
Oracle is allowing to include into your project, and you can do the setups also, but when it comes to usage, you will be restricted. Take EBS.
Usage meaning?
See, you've taken the license for finance and SCM, and you'll get the product from Oracle. You can install in your own server. You can start using project accounting HRMS also. Nobody will stop if you configure and all. When you have issue, Oracle is not going to help you because you don't have license. You didn't take license. First of all, you should not use, but you may start using. Okay, but Oracle is not going to help here. Since this instance will be in their control, they don't allow you to use. They will allow you to do the setups and all. Since which offerings and options you take in the subscription, for that only we have to do implementation. For remaining also they will allow. Okay, they will allow. The reason you can guess in the way like where just we are trying to understand how that process will work, or else as a consulting company we are trying to demonstrate to the client how that functionality will work, so certain areas, and for that purpose, or else maybe for the practice of some dependency setups completion and all those aspects you can use. Real process they don't allow you. Okay, real process they don't allow you, and they'll stop there itself. Okay, say you don't have license for payables, so in this vision instance, you can see full privileges, but when you get real instance for your client, you can do the payable setups, but they don't allow you to create invoice and payments also. In that role restrictions they will be setting. Payables related roles they don't allow you to access. When you don't have payables related roles, you cannot perform any payables related configuration. Since you have access to FSM through application implementation consultant, you can do the payable setups, receivable setups, even if you don't have any subscription. But you cannot record the transactions. That's how they are setting control on this usage.
But can we get access in the test instance to show give a demo to the user of how to create an invoice or so?
Yeah, test
after doing the setup, if we don't have access.
Test they'll give you.
Okay.
Test instance, okay. Get it. Fine. So these are the points we have to understand when we talk about creating the project. What are the offerings and options enabled? Only those would be available. Say at the time of enabling the offerings, you enable financials. Okay, all options excluding expense. Here you don't find expense here to select into project, since you didn't enable at the time of offerings enabling. Okay, when you're enabling offering, if you don't enable, you don't find here to select into project. Okay, so this is how we can enable the offerings and options. Based on the scope, you can enable which offerings and options you are going to implement for the client. These are the many offerings you can see here, including the options. Now you can say save and open project. Now system will create the task list for selected offerings and options. To do the implementation, what are the setups required, all system will create as a task list. That's what we discussed here. So first we have to enable, then we have to create the implementation project. As a part of implementation project creation, we have to select the offerings and options. Yes, we did that. Now system will create the task list. We'll go and see that. It takes some time because for selected offerings and options, it has to identify which are selected, and relevant task system has to generate. Created project is created. For the project we selected only financials and procurement. So to implement finance related applications, which setups we have to do, all you can see here. These are again grouped as a task list. These points we'll discuss in the tomorrow session. Just we created project, that's all. This is the point you can take as of now. Okay, we enabled offerings. By selecting offerings, we created project, and once the system create the project, and what are the other points we have to understand, we'll see in the tomorrow session. Okay, we're done with the session. It's already 9:50. We're done with the session. If you want to drop from the meeting, you can drop. If you have any questions, you can stay back and we can discuss. Okay, we're done for today.
Can you share that Excel spreadsheet? That will be easier to. That will be a cheat
I'll do
sheet
it. I
to.
said I'll be doing from today onwards. I'll be sharing these videos through Google Drive, and I will provide the instance access also to release 13. And along with that, in the
Okay.
Google Drive itself, I'll be placing that Excel file so you can use for your reference.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Any questions from?
Yeah. And yeah, one question. The initial user you had used, that student one,
Correct.
and ERP3 I understand. So say suppose
Suresh, your voice is breaking.
I'm
It's not much clear.
going for create buying it.
No, your voice is not
Sorry.
clear. Your voice
So
is
now you're
not
able to
clear.
hear. Hello, now?
Now I think better. Please go ahead. We'll see.
Yeah. So this student one user, I understand that when you go to a company to implement, instead of ERP3 user, they'll create my name and they will give me access. But who is that person? Student one who has that access? Will that be the
No,
manager of the project? How is it? I'm sorry.
no. See, when you are just implementing for a company called as say XYZ company, think Oracle will provide. Okay, for your instance access, they'll give the user called as XYZ admin. You may get with this name, or else they may give name as XYZ user. Okay, okay, XYZ. So fusion any name, with any name you can get that user. So that name you will be using and you will be creating your own user, or else you can proceed with that user also. Okay, what are the user you get from Oracle, from that user also you can start doing the setups. But for your understanding, I am just showing in our classes how to create the new user, that's all. Okay,
Okay, got it.
whatever I'm using FAS and all thing I got from Oracle. The same way you will be getting from Oracle one user. Then by using that user you can create your own users, or else you may use the same user to create your implementation project. Here why I'm demonstrating how to create a user, for our understanding we should know how to create new users in the Fusion environment instead of using just what we get from Oracle or some other source. Okay.
And yeah, thank you. And can you go to that ERP3 and setup and maintenance? And in setup and maintenance, we have those offerings, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me what is
Yeah,
your question?
there in this screen. I'm just waiting for the screen to pop up. Yeah, in the screen, if you see setup and after compensation management, there is a drop down. I understand those are the list of offerings, and then there is actions,
Correct.
and there is a task. Yeah, and then there is task. This task and that the little drop down, I see a few of the items, they don't even have a label. Like say for
No,
instance, task doesn't even have a label.
one second. We never do setups from here, just for information only. These are the functional areas. Okay, the setups will do from here. I'll take you through that. Just what we are not discussing, my request is don't focus on that. Okay, so we never use this section to do the setups. If you want to do the setups which are classified manner, you can see here financials are selected. These are setups related to finance. If I select general ledger, GL related list of setups you can see here, but we are not going to do from here since this is not a project oriented setups here. Okay, if I select supplier related setups, this you can use just for information purpose, nothing else. Okay, if I select payables, this is payables related basic configuration. Payments, these are the payment related setups. But you never do these setups from this place. So you'll be doing this all these setups from your project. That is the reason I did talk about this, and not at all required. And for our understanding, yes, we can discuss that. So from here we are not going to do anything, just for information. Within this financial offering or any other offering, what is the functional areas of information we have, within a specific functional area of information, what are the relevant tasks we have. These all you can see within the project also, with a grouping of folder options, task list. We'll see that in the next session. You will get that understanding.
Okay, so this is more like a read only, and you can just view what was set up.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
I
can
understand.
do. I shown in the release 12, right? In case of release 12, even this navigation page is not available, right? Once you click on this, okay, once you click on this setup and maintenance, so once you click on this setup and maintenance, they're not navigating to that page which is just defaulting in case of 12. So in release 12, if you want to see that, okay, intentionally you have to go and see. Here you have a financial, select and do setup. Finance related which setups you have to perform. The list you can see, which you could see through document also. You have seen the document, right? Finance related task list and tasks. That's how you can see from here. But we don't do the setups from here. We do always from project only. Okay, I think this is
Okay.
just information. That's all. Okay.
And out of curiosity,
Yeah.
that this task icon, right, that doesn't have a label.
You mean label means you are expecting
Yeah,
some
which are
help related information?
like a task, right? It should tell something, right? There are many few I see that don't even have a labeling.
Where this is what you are talking about?
No, on the right side, that icon is there. On the right side, that small box with 3 lines. No,
I think
right.
he's talking about the task panel. Lakshman, the task panel.
Which one?
Those dots.
On the right. Go to the right. Move your cursor to the right. Yeah. Little bit to the top. No. Yeah, that one. That doesn't have a labeled task. And there are a few icons I see that don't even have a labeling. So just thought of asking.
Icons. Which icon you are referring? I'm really sorry. Like which icons? No, what is the issue? Like what you are trying to say here?
Just below your
Task list.
See here you
Different
can see task. These are the task names. What is your point here? Like which one you are referring?
So yeah, on action.
The icon, task list icon.
That the actions box is there, right?
Yes.
At the bottom right. No. That bottom right, there is another. Thing.
Yes.
There is no label. Only when you move, there is a task label coming up. So just out of curiosity, what we got.
See, not required. Like just it's just see wherever it is not required with some icon, because this is a icon which you see across all the applications, not only here. When you go to payables, receivables, or any application for invoice creation, payment creation, this is a very default icon which you see everywhere. That is the reason they ignored that labeling. That's it. I don't think these things will repeated in this environment. So which are very much common, we don't need to write the name and all. That is the reason they didn't write it. So, but when you put the cursor, it will give pop-up. But you don't see many things in this way. So everything there you can see the labeling, but it's a quite common icon which you see across all the applications. Okay, in terms of doing the business process, that is the reason they ignored labeling this. The icon representation they give it.
Yeah, there is also one more on the left, right next to setup financials, the download arrow. Right next to it, there is another icon.
If you place cursor, you can see that. Just it's a description.
Description. Okay.
So that pop-up they are giving, their pop-up you can reality if you want to. No, one time it's all about just one time. See, one time if I see like I can understand that is a description. All the time it's not mandatory. Okay, where we first time when you see us, definitely we'll seek for some information, but one time if you see that is a well known for us all the time, that is the reason. So anyway, consultants will be working on these areas of these pages. That's the reason they ignored. Some end users or somebody is going to work, definitely they need very much detailed information, right? So for us it may not be required one time if you see and understand. So that might be the reason they ignore that labeling, the constant label for few things.
Okay, and one last thing from my end. Should we be using Firefox as well to access the instance? Is there a specific reason you are using Firefox, or any browser is
No,
fine?
use Firefox. There are certain features which won't work in the Chrome browser. Okay, the you can use Internet Explorer or Firefox. Firefox is the best browser which you can use for this. Very much compatible. Everything will work in the Chrome also. There are certain things when you set approvals. Primarily when you set approvals, and when you go with some small drop down functions, you see you'll get experience as those won't be responding. Okay, use Mozilla Firefox as a browser, I mean your default browser to access this application. It's compatible with everything. There are few exceptional cases where you'll have some issue with other browsers. That is the reason I'm just recommending you can use the Mozilla only.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, fine. So any other
Last
questions
one.
from anyone, please? Yeah.
Last one. This is Pradeep.
I have one.
While creating this one implementation project, you had given the finish date, right?
Correct.
So after that finish date, can the implementation consultant work on it, or it will be locked?
Yes. We can work on after finish data also. That is just for information purpose only. No control.
Okay.
Yeah. See, when you talk about project accounting, there you can create the project and you can give the finish date. With the project controls, you can set if after finish date, no task can be performed by business users. That's how you can set in the project accounting, right? Such kind of functionalities we cannot deploy in this project. This is just for information management. That to primarily to track the progress of the project. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
And yesterday you had shared the link, vision link, but the one you open now it's little different.
Yeah. Whatever I just we shared earlier, since you are interested for previous batch videos also, that is the reason we shared previous batch videos and the relevant version of instance. So today we'll be sharing this batch videos for the release 13 instance. Okay, I'll be sharing release 13 instance today after this session.
Okay.
Yep. Fine. Thanks.
Is there any difference? Okay. Is there any difference between the old link and this one?
Which one?
Is there any difference in application?
No big difference. There are slight differences.
The old link is R12, right?
Yeah, very minute differences. You see, if you are using this instance, release 12, this is release 12, which I shared with you. You will click on setup and maintenance. You will be landing in this page.
Yes.
But when you talk about release 13, if you click on this, you will be landing in this default page. You will find some difference.
Okay.
See, if it is a release 12, you will land in this page. Here, this is the one. And now you have to
configuration.
You have to do some setup. You want to search for some task. Here directly you can search for any task, but here it is not possible. If you want to search anything, you can search within this composition management only.
Okay.
And here you can see, if you click on implementation projects, you'll see list of implementation projects. But here you have to search if you are not aware of it. You have to search. You have to go to this task list. Here you have the task as manage implementation project. So these are the very minute navigations are slightly different. So maybe after 1 or 2 classes, this would be more clear, even if you have an idea about this 12 navigations, etc. Okay, rest almost remains same. There are a few other changes. Anyway, we'll come across through those changes, and I'll be comparing with release 12 also how it was. There is no big differences, and I'll be just giving the point as is there any difference in specific area. Okay, fine.
Okay, and actually I'm working in Oracle. Okay, in there it's like a few people are using this one line manager as well as HCM view all this one roles. They will add it to
line manager role will have
so why is that?
Yeah, 1 second. Line manager role is shall have a certain privileges. View all means it will give the full privileges where you can go and do the modifications to HCM related data. Those are two different roles. You are talking about two different roles which are related to core HCM.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Yeah. So more than line manager, the view all role, whatever you are assigning, it will have all the privileges. Even whatever line manager cannot do, that can be done from that role with view all or
Okay.
update all. We have a different roles.
Yeah.
So what sort of privileges the user required for HCM related data or setups? So those can be provisioned with that setups and process. Fine, you will come
Okay.
to know. Like in our classes, you will see from where you can see all the roles, how to modify, how to customize, everything you can will come across.
Okay.
Yep.
And also we can create like in one role we can put all other role as childs, right?
Exactly. That we call as role hierarchy. You can merge multiple roles into one role. That one role you can assign to
Okay. Is
user.
there
All
any limit
privileges
on that?
user will get.
Is there any limit on the child ones?
No. You can have
We can do
number.
n number of
Yep.
things. Okay, and another on the implementation project. For example, one customer might have around 30 plus customers in around 30 plus countries, right?
Yes.
So an implementation user can't manager can't go and create 30 implementation projects. So they can use one project itself, and they can modify one or two projects, and they can share the 15 countries, right?
No. See, the reality, if
Okay.
the reality, the manager is not going to create the project in the instant. Okay. So manager, say you have a manager, you may not be aware of this application. What is the offering? What is the option? What is the navigation? How to create, etc. Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
ideally, these projects will be created by consultant who knows
Consultant.
about the
Okay.
product. Consultant only will create. But
Okay.
normally, since we are calling it as a implementation project, there will be somebody who will be heading the project. That is the reason we are pointing. This will be assigned to manager and all. So the most of the
Okay. In that.
implementation which we do, so we only create. If manager also this application fusion expert, then they can create it. Otherwise, we only create.
Okay.
Yep.
And in one project we can set up like 10 plus countries, right?
100 countries also. 100 countries also. There is
100
a
countries.
client who is using. They have operations in more than 100 countries now. From last
Yes.
2 years, they are doing. Yeah. There is no
Okay.
limit. There is no limit.
Okay.
You subscribe the instance for number of users, then you can start using.
Okay.
The same EBS instance logic only applicable here. Okay.
Okay. Same. No difference.
Yeah, no difference. In single
Okay.
instance, you can have a solution for multiple countries. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So any other
Okay.
questions?
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks.
Yeah. I want to confirm one point. So when the task is assigned to the user and
Sorry, then?
the person does the setup, yeah. So when we assign the task to the user and the user does the setup, complete the setup, so is in the middle of doing the setup, can we disable that task? Basically that option?
No. Disabling task is not possible once you select that. Say you are talking about payable related setup. Okay, you are talking about one payable related setup. You selected payables into your project and you created. So task is generated. Task is generated. So task you cannot disable. By using the task, whatever the setup you do, that you can disable. Say for example, you created payment terms. By using the task called as payment terms, you created one payment term, say net 30 days. That payment term, if user wants to, they don't require, you can disable it, you can end it. That's how you can do. Task itself, the function itself, you cannot disable. That would be available as a part of your
But
project. If you
if we
want
haven't
to
done
use
that,
it or else ignore it. That's all.
but if we haven't done the payment setup, like in our example, can we disable it then, or still we cannot if we haven't done the payment setup? But we assign the option, the offering, but later we decide we're not going to do it, so we didn't do the setup.
No,
Then
exactly.
we
If you don't
disable
do the setups, like see, when you do any
option.
setups in the system, System will look at dependency, right? If you are doing one setup, that could be a standalone setup, or that may have some dependency on other setups. That's what system will look for. Say for example, you are going to create the supplier. Straight away, if you are trying to create the supplier, it won't allow. There are some dependency setups. First, you have to make that user as a procurement agent. So if you the user, from which user you are trying to create the complete supplier definition, if it is not done, it won't allow. Or else you are creating the supplier, and before that you didn't complete supplier number specification, it won't allow you to do it. That's how wherever some dependencies are applicable, you have to fulfill that, then only it will allow. If you have some setups which are very much independent setups, you can do it. Okay, so even if you are, even if you are not completed other setups which are again independent.
Okay.
Yep.
And can we copy the, so let's say we create one implementation project. Can we copy that implementation project and then make some changes to
No,
create
see, one second.
new implementation project?
The implementation project creation is minutes of job. That is the reason that functionality they are not giving. Just minute you can create.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Fine. So any other questions from anyone, please? Questions from anyone, please?
Hello?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, Rashford, last day before yesterday I spoke to you regarding certification. You said you'll call. I just
Can
tried
you
you,
be
but
loud? Can you be a bit loud? I can't hear you. Your voice is very.
actually, day before yesterday, last week,
Okay.
Friday, I spoke to you about certification part.
So Abbas, just your voice is breaking, and the other side your voice is bit low. Okay, I'll do one thing. Just I'll ask
Pass.
my team to give you a call. We can have a phone call. If you have some issue with that.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Okay.
Fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. So fine. Any other questions from anyone? Okay, since no questions, we can wind up for today. And from tomorrow, we'll make sure that we'll be completing the session by sharp 9:30. Okay, we'll just schedule 8 to 9:30. So that's all for today. See you tomorrow. Have a good day and good night. Thank you.